But what you're doing is you're creating these like crazy potential moments where like you might have gotten into that fight at resort, and then you spawn back in and you spawned in on customs and you're like, this is way too far to run. I'm not even going to go. So then you move into factory and you meet him there and you kill him and you're like, he had my stuff. Like that would just be so cool. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast, the show dedicated to talking about all the Pogcast things in life, like music, content creation, and video games. I am one of your co-hosts, JesseKazam, an Escape from Tarkov YouTuber and Twitch streamer.
And I'm Veritas, a level 3 cleric, rogue, wizard with proficiencies in magic missile and two weapon fighting.
You're a Magic the Gathering god.
Dude, I felt that. Like in my bones.
Deep. What's up, man? You've been live for a while now. Have you just been playing Magic? Did you start with Tarkov, or did you just go right into your bliss and just skip over the pain?
Right into my bliss. I think I played Tarkov in the last like 10 days for like 2 hours, maybe.
Nice. I feel that though.
It's been just enjoyable.
That's good. That's so good. Yeah, I'm sure we're going to talk about it in a little bit. I've been playing a lot of like the cycle as well, but I did play Tarkov solo. So I've been playing Tarkov still like every day, almost every single day for, different amounts of time. Sometimes it's like 2 hours and then we switch to another game, and sometimes it's like all night. And I had been telling you that like the past few weeks I've just been getting my stuff pushed in, just like I've been getting absolutely annihilated. And the last like day or two that I played, I actually had some really, really good raids. We're at this like super weird part of the White Man where it's like, I feel like the I don't really play labs. So outside of labs, the stereotype is that right now everybody's going to be a Giga Chad slick alt meta M4, right? Like that's the stereotype. I feel like that's the least common player sans labs, right? Like if you go to labs, you probably either get that or the, rat rig, no helmet meta M4. Like those are the two people. But everywhere else, you either get the poor souls that either just started or reset their account. Like the amount of like level 1 to 10s I'm killing on customs, I'm like, I feel so bad. Or you get like the absolute tryhards, but with ridiculous kits. Like I was in like a 9-minute, like the most try-hard fight I've ever been in my entire life with a level 62 tracksuit guy who had a Mosin and a rat rig, no helmet on customs and dorms. Dude, it was like, I ended up killing him and like, I went on this like rant. I was like, just chill. I mean, dude, dropping, like he was dropping, I was jumping in windows. We were jumping in and out of windows, like the most meta maneuvers ever. But he only had a Mosin and a rat rig. And it was like, I'm assuming that's how he has fun, right? Because like he probably would have annihilated me with he had a mutant or an HK or something like that. But because he only had a bolty, like that's how he gets the rush. So it's like the tryhards are all using weird kits, and then it's like Timmy's, or it's been like, it hasn't been as much as, of course, Twitter or Reddit want you to believe, but the cheaters that I've run into are like way more blatant. Like insane, like, you know what I mean? Like it was like my second raid the other night, and I spawned right at Crack House. Like, you know how there's that spawn where you're literally like almost inside Crack House on customs now. You just like spawn in and you look at it and you're like, oh, let me walk in here. You're like by the bus station.
I was gonna say by the like in the parking lot on the corner of the building kind of thing. Yeah.
You just like spawn right there. I spawned right there. I ran inside. I looted like a jacket, and then I heard somebody running from Fortress. They spawned old gas and they ran right across. I heard him full sprinting. I heard him stop. He shot at me 10 times through the wall. And I was like, maybe he saw a scav or something like that. And I literally I was like, I think he's over there. And I peeked my head up in the glass and boom, I was just gone. Like literally as soon as a part of me was in a place that he could pen, he was standing completely in the middle of the open, no cover. I was like it's so blatant. Like it's only been few and far between, but
it wasn't blatant because you made noise. You went to a common spot. You did. There's so many reasons why the thing
it could have been legit.
was reasonable, dude. I would have done that.
Yeah.
I would have known that you were gonna peek there because I could have heard you and I would have seen you, and maybe the wall didn't show up, and
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
maybe the footstep noises were glitched. Maybe he was desync and he was right behind you, but you looked out.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So it's been weird because because like the stereotype is almost the not stereotype anymore. Like I feel like I don't run into too many just like Slick Alton meta HK Chads. It's like those guys either left or they're playing labs and everybody's just running weird. It's just like weirdo central in Tarkov right now, man. But
I just think that people, I mean, it goes in line with the idea that I think something that you said last week, which was Tarkov is dead.
yeah. I've been saying that a lot lately.
But no, but just like people are bored.
Yeah.
So they're either playing other games or they're just doing weird shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
100%.
or they're just normal casual players who haven't played enough to be bored, so they're just playing normally.
Yeah.
Like we all did for the first, like year we played the game.
And it's crazy because like there's no doubt in my mind that like this is a low point for like Tarkov as far as like concurrent player base. Like probably like if I had to guess, this is probably the lowest we've been since like pre-drops, like pre, 0.12, and then a few months later we got drops. But like if you just take 5 seconds to like think about it, it kind of makes sense. Like I tell people this all the time. Like every time we wipe when we don't like really and truly need a wipe, the perceived wipe gets shorter. Like, you know what I mean? If your first wipe, you could go, 8 months and still want to do more. Your second wipe at like the 6-month mark, you're like, I'm kind of done. At your 6th wipe, a month and a half in, you're like, I kind of did everything. At your 9th wipe, 3 weeks in, you're like, yeah, nothing. Like, so every time that happens, and people underestimate that because every time we wipe, people get more and more dissatisfied earlier on. And secondly, there's been more happening in gaming timed up with this like low point than in the past. Like I was talking to somebody and I was like, in the past, like for the past like a year and a half, if we were ever at a low point in Tarkov, like towards the end of a wipe or mid wipe, like the only other really thing to do was like go play Apex or go play Warzone if you wanted to stick into the shooter genre. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But now it's like there's like Halo test flights every other weekend. There was the Battlefield beta. Battlefield is coming out. The Cycle game came out. New World came out, which MMORPGs. And then on top of that, all the other niche like games that people like to play, your Valheims, your 0 Hours, your this, your that. So I feel like there's so much more happening this fall in gaming and specifically like first person shooter gaming. And then on top of that, specifically games that at least in some way are aiming at the Tarkov audience, but people are like, oh, Tarkov's dead. You know what I mean? And it's like, this is kind of a good thing. It's good to have more options when you're dissatisfied with the game. Like you can't measure the health of a game by like how many players begrudgingly play when they're not having fun. Like if that number is high, that's not necessarily a good thing. So it's been so weird. It's been super weird, but
yeah, I have been totally staying away from Tarky land. I played for a while, and even though I had some like good raids, I was just like, I just don't feel like it.
Yeah.
I just don't care. Actually, Desmond had let me borrow some labs key cards because he's like, I'm not going to be playing, for a while, and I got these key cards and I was running labs, and he's like, I wonder what the loot, because we talked about over the last few weeks the different loot changes that they've made, and he's like, I wonder what red and what violet and all these other rooms are like. I don't know. So he let me have the cards, and like you would think that would like I'd be energized to
like rekindle that, yeah.
And the first day I did it, I died to cheaters like instantly. Like I played for like 3 hours and I didn't even make it into the room outside of Red Room. Like I didn't make it to that doorway once. But then a couple days later, the one day I played for like 2 or 3 hours in the last like 10 days, I literally all the raids were dead. I was going and I was looting yellow, violet, red, like the office, like everything.
Mhm.
and I was making bank, and I did like 3 raids, and I'm like, I'm just gonna play another game. Like,
Yeah.
I just, I just it does nothing for me. If
Yeah.
I there's now I'm at the point where, and if I take a while, if I take a long enough break, that'll go away. But I just feel like there's only negative emotions. There's no
Yeah.
positive. If I
Yeah.
have a good raid, it's like, so what?
It's
Like
like
I got stuff
neutral to
that I
negative
care.
is the range. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, best case scenario, I just do a raid, and it's a normal raid, and then it's like I feel like, what did I do? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't make any fucking progress towards anything. Like,
Yep.
and I don't care about money,
Yeah.
and I don't care about gear. So it really is. I'm only opening every time I play. I'm only opening myself to getting annoyed by cheaters, and by desync, and by the community.
Yeah.
Whatever. So yeah, it's been nice with like 3% of my normal viewership playing Magic has been
Yeah.
like, I actually commented on Deadly Slob had a tweet the other day that was like, this is the longest I've been without
Oh
playing
yeah.
Tarkov. He said like 10 days or something. And I was like, yeah, man, I feel you. It's been about that for me. And I'm like, looking back, that these last 10 days have been literally nothing but good vibes.
Yep.
Like, other than just like, the little creeping stress around like, if I'm not playing Tarkov, am I,
Yeah.
just like the whole Tarkov is dead, like, is my channel dead? Like, I'm not really worried about that. I don't really care. Well, I do care, but
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it. But yeah, it's been nothing but like good shit. Actually, this is getting slightly personal, but I feel like it's kind of telling. I started talking with a therapist months ago, to try to get like my fucking mental, in check, because
Yeah.
I was, just dealing with the different struggles of streaming, and the frustrations with the game, and then the community being toxic, and then the ambiguity over whether people are being annoying and stupid and toxic on purpose,
Yes.
like to troll you, or
Yeah.
they're just annoying and stupid, and
And they don't know it.
accidentally toxic, but they mean well. And it's actually been one of the things I've been talking with my therapist. Her name's Asper. She's super fucking cool. And I think she might actually be, I don't know if she's from Belarus or from Russia, but
Oh
it's
really?
just whenever I talk about like Tarkov and stuff, and she just like grins whenever I'm talking about like Russian developers and blah blah blah. But she so what we were doing was basically saying like, how did this week go? And it was like, oh, the games were rough, and I was getting frustrated, and there were trolls and whatever, and we're just trying to figure out like how best to deal with all that stuff. And literally the last 2 or 3 appointments I've had with her, I've been like, everything's fucking great. Like, there's nothing. And she's like, well, that's great, we're making progress. And it's like, well, I mean, I kind of.
I'm just
not playing. I'm not doing the thing that triggers all these negative emotions.
Yep.
So there's no negative emotion. So it's like, am I making progress? I don't fucking
I don't know. I
So,
mean, yeah.
It's really weird.
But
Bittersweet, I guess you could say.
yeah, but it's good because it is weird. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no matter how much you know in your head that, like you were saying, those thoughts of like, oh man, like I haven't played Tarkov in a while. My numbers are low. Like, as much as you can know in your head, like, okay, like long term, it's better for me to be doing something I enjoy. It's better for my mental health, and actually probably better for my stream and my brand and this, that, and the other. And then when I come back to Tarkov, I'm gonna be so much more fresh. But like, no matter how much you know that in your head, there's still the fear, like, you know what I mean? The frustrations, because like you work so hard building it. So I feel like there's always that, but it's good to just have the good vibes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've been playing a lot of the cycle, and yeah, a lot of like, it's a lot of questions, but it's questions are framed so differently. You know what I mean? Like people don't come in and be like, do you think that this game is dead and that every single other person you find is a cheater? It's like, oh, what's that? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I'm still talking to chat, I'm still answering the same questions over and over again. What's this game? What's this game? But it's a whole different mental field than when you play Tarkov, what those questions are and how they're framed and what like position people are when they come into chat. Tarkov feels so loaded. Everything feels loaded. It's a loaded question. It's a loaded statement. It's a everything. And I'm like, every response is like, how deep down this rabbit hole do I want to go? You know what I mean? Do I just want to like ignore this? Do I just want to meme on him and move on? Or do I want to try and educate him? Is it worth trying to educate him? And all those questions happen with almost like every other chat. And you're just like, it's mentally exhausting, even if you ignore everybody. Even if you just like ignore all that, it's still.
Because you're going through all of that shit in your head. You're like, I have to deflect this and change this and ignore this and do whatever. And I mean, welcome to all my therapy sessions.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, can't you just do this? And I'm like, I could, but then more people will ask the question. And then if I don't answer the question, people think I'm dodging the question. And then they'll send me emails. And then if I go to talk about it and vent about it, well, then more people will come in, and then other people will. And it's like, wow, it really just it seems like you're in this terrible like black hole, vicious cycle whirlpool of shit that really sucks.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one. Yeah, what you just said. That's the.
And I'm like, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And if I go play Tarkov, it's weird how it's like I'm in a much better mood when I'm playing Magic. So that when someone comes in and says, "Wow, you've got 84 viewers.
Yeah.
Last year you had 600 or whatever. Your fucking channel's dying, and I'm so glad it couldn't have happened to a shittier person. Go fuck yourself." If I'm like playing Magic, I'm in a good mood. I'm like, it literally doesn't affect me at all.
Yeah.
If I'm playing Tarkov and I get fucked over by the game and by cheaters in my netcode, and then I'm like explaining about whatever, and then I'm frustrated.
Yeah.
And then people are like gaslighting me, basically saying like, I wasn't a cheater, dude. He just knew, whatever. It's annoying enough. And then someone comes in and says your fucking channel's dying. That's when I'm like, you're a fucking piece of shit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like,
yep.
You're down.
Yep.
But it's like
100%.
That only happens when I'm playing Tarkov. So it's been nice. It's been nice. But so you were saying that you were playing a bit of the cycle. I played it for one day.
Yeah. So like I sent you like a wall of Discord messages when I found out about this game, because I was like I hadn't played it yet at that point, but I was like watching Landmark and Summit play it, and I was like hearing the questions that they were being asked about the game, and I was like a lot of people are saying, Tarkov in space. I was like, this is like, I was like, I think the developers of this game watched the podcast and they wanted to make a game based on me and Veritas's front porch old man rants and raves. I was like, dude, on this last episode of the podcast, we were talking about how, on the last like 2 episodes, I think we brought up how fundamentally different Tarkov would play if they stitched a few of the maps together, made the raids really long, and you were infilling and exfilling all the time. You know what I mean? We were going on the rant about how like predictability is the #1 Tarkov experience killer, and everything is predictable. Where your enemies spawn, where they're going to go for the loot, if the loot is going to be there or not, and then where they're going to go once they have the loot to extract.
Yep.
And so like I'm hearing about this game and everybody's like, okay, space Tarkov. All right, well, okay, let me hang out in the chat. And I was like, and it's like, yeah, okay. So you go in with a loadout. You can insure it if you want. You've got quests based on 3 different traders and 3 different factions, and you level them up by selling stuff to them and buying them stuff from them and doing quests for them. You lose everything upon death. I was like, okay, yeah, I like this game loop. And then it's like, yeah, oh, and the map is huge. The instances are 6 hours long, and the 20 players are constantly infilling and exfilling. And I was like, shut up. You know what I mean? I was like, shut up. I was like, this is incredible. And I was like, because they're in this high fantasy landscape where there's like monsters and you know what I mean, whatever, they escape the realism, the realism, right? Like, you know what I mean? And then because of that,
they don't feel beholden to.
Because of that, they can balance and tinker however they want, and nobody cares. You know what I mean? I'm picking up, the spine of a monster I picked up, or some fiber galactic space needles. Like
that the alien spine is not 4 kilograms. It's not real.
Yeah. it's like such a, they're just not beholden to that. Now, I will say, like, that is also fundamentally why it's not going to be the Tarkov killer, because that's the number one thing. Like, if, man, the circle of thought around when you play a new game, like, you know, we went through this with Hazard Zone. It was like the Battlefield thing, which nobody's played yet, but it's been like, oh, this is supposed to be, you know, X game, but like Tarkov. And then it's like, well, how is it like Tarkov? Oh, well, it might be like Tarkov in these different ways. Oh, well, is it fun? Yeah, it's pretty fun. Oh, so it's going to kill Tarkov? You know what I mean? Everybody's like, at first they're hesitant to call it a Tarkov thing. And then they're like, why? And that's, oh, this is kind of why it's like Tarkov. And then it's like, well, are you having fun? If yes, on the flow chart, it's like, if you're having fun playing a game that's like Tarkov, well, then Tarkov is dead. Like, thank God for some competition. Like, Tarkov is freaking toast. Nikita's shaking in his boots. And you're like, dude, calm down. Because you can boil the Tarkov experience down to two things. The gameplay loop of risking everything you have, and the like industry leading gunplay and realism mechanics, right? Like the modeling, the gunplay, the modularity of the guns, like those two things together are what make Tarkov. You know what I mean? Obviously assuming that we have a perfect netcode and perfect audio, but like it's those things together. So this game very predominantly just is like, well, we're just going to take this vertical slice of it and make a fun game there. But man, it's crazy how many of the things you and I talk about that we wish Tarkov would do, this game has. Oh, and there's no flea market. So that's why I was like, it's like pre-flea Tarkov, but better. You know what I mean? Oh my god.
I mean, there's a few different aspects of it too. So there's no, you know, flea market. I don't know if they're planning on it or whatever.
Yeah.
The only reason why they would ever be like, we're not planning on it is to like respond to people from Tarkov community being like worried about it.
Yeah.
You know, otherwise, well, I don't think we'll know until, you know, they either answer that question directly or not. But I mean, you can buy a whole bunch of stuff and craft a whole bunch of stuff.
Yep.
It seems like there's enough resources, you know, like I played for maybe 2 hours, but even then I went to like look at the initial crafts because I did like 2 or 3 quests.
Yeah.
You know, what you have to do is there's like 3 factions, then you kind of level them up as you do quests.
Yep.
And they have different kinds of guns and whatever. I'm sure there's a lot more to it. But it was like, let me go look at, you know, whatever the, like the tier 2 or tier 3 like guns and armor are, and it was like, oh, you need 11 of these things. I don't know what they are. 6 of these other things I've never seen before. It's like, oh, there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, so it seems like there's, you know, going to be a fairly robust crafting and like leveling of the items in almost a way similar to a lot of like MMOs or even like Fortnite. How they have like there's the blue, the green, the purple.
Yes.
Somebody was talking about that the other day, and I'm like, I had never played any games like that, so I didn't know that. Like, I still don't know off the top of my head like what's better than what. You know, there's blue, there's purple. Like everybody's like, why didn't you grab the purple? And I'm like, I don't know, dude.
I don't know. Is it better?
Yeah, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the coolest mechanics though that they have is the way that they have the insurance mechanic.
It's so interesting.
It's so subtly different than Tarkov, but it has completely different ramifications for the game. So what you do is, before you go into a raid, based on the things you have with you, like in your bag and whatever, you pay a fee to ensure like your life and all of your and the value of the things you took in with you for that raid. So first of all, what that means is there's no insurance fraud. Because and I don't know if we actually explicitly said, but we're talking about the game. It's called The Cycle Frontier. In case we didn't say that. So if you go in and you throw your gear on the ground, your gear is not insured. So there's no insurance fraud. You're insuring your life for one raid, and it's a portion of, you know, based on the value that you took in. So if you survive, then that just means you're out the insurance money, and you You literally have to buy insurance every single raid.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
And when if you die, you basically get paid out a certain amount of money. Like
Yeah,
you don't get any gear back, but you might pay 2,000 credits to insure this kit, and if you die, you'll get 9,000 credits because that
which is like realism. I mean, that's how insurance
it's like
works.
life insurance. Exactly. Like that is so much of a better way to describe it, is like you're not purchasing insurance on your items, you're purchasing life insurance, and your next of kin gets a payout if you die. But if you don't die, then you're just out that payment.
Yeah. And in this case,
so interesting.
In real life, you're even nobody would say that someone's life is more valuable than someone else's life, right? But
Correct.
really, your life insurance, it's tied to how much like your net worth is, how much you pay for, all those things. So I mean, it really is a much more realistic idea, which gets around the weird, unrealistic aspects that insurance has in Tarkov, where like you're insuring your gear, but the insurance is to get it back if nobody else gets it. Like, I wonder how Tarkov would change if, I mean, there's different things they could do. Imagine if it wasn't even items. Okay, wait. Let's just make one minor tweak to how Tarkov works and brainstorm.
Mm-hmm.
You're insuring your items for their value.
Yeah.
And when you die, you get paid back always some fraction of that value.
Mm-hmm.
Only if you die.
Yeah.
How does that change? I mean, you're not going to insurance fraud things.
Yep. Correct.
Which gets around the whole thing of like you always take in shitty gear because you like want to be able to get lucky, kill someone with better stuff so you can upgrade and then get your stuff back, right? It's almost like it's like when you play poker or blackjack, you win your first hand, you like get your money back from the initial investment, and then you just like put that in your wallet and you're like, okay, cool. Now I can't lose money if I'm only with my, that's kind of how like I think a lot of people approach the insurance in Tarkov. Which
that strategy feels like the best thing to do given the way Tarkov is. Like, that's an understandable thing, but it feels not necessarily the way Tarkov was designed to be, right? Like Nikita talks all the time about like plan, prepare, execute. You know what I mean? Like bring in the loadout that you think is going to be the most efficient for the task that you want to do. Something as small as that actually kind of incentivizes that a little bit more. You can still go in with a budget kit for sure, but you're not going to be insurance frauding that kit. And if you bring in your nicer stuff and you die, you're going to get a bigger payout. So there's a little bit less risk there. It kind of like somehow mitigates. We talked, I think last week about like the good gear fear and the bad gear fear. Like you should always want to keep your stuff, but you shouldn't, never use your best stuff ever and just let it, rot away in your stash. Like a little bit more incentive to bring that out. Cause it's like, well, I might survive and get stuff, but if I don't, at least I'm getting some sort of kickback from this based on the value of what it was.
Dude, imagine if, holy shit. Okay. Imagine if this could totally change. This could change everything.
This could change everything.
Because I'm just thinking about I got to like right underneath the threshold for max level fence. For the scav karma. So I never got to really see like what elite fence looks like. Imagine if like when you insured your stuff, or when you insure your life for a raid, it's going to be a percentage of whatever the stuff is. So if you think about it, it's a higher risk but higher reward. So if you have top tier stuff, it's going to be more expensive. Let me think about this out loud. This actually might even, I can't decide if you'd want it to be the inverse or not. Like you brought in the good stuff. That's almost like you're a safe driver. Like you have airbags.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you pay less for insurance the better stuff you have.
Yeah. We've talked about that before. We've talked about that, I think, on the podcast before about how like the whole insurance analogy doesn't really work because of exactly that. It's like you don't want the guy with a 12% survival rate paying $80K insurance for his rat rig and his stock AK, because he is technically much more of a risk from the insurance company, and you don't want the Chads bringing in the high tier stuff and paying next to nothing, even though that would be how it works. We were talking about that before. It's weird. It's weird.
So yeah, I mean, does it make sense that, let's just say let's take gear insurance out of it altogether, because it literally doesn't make sense. Let's just say there's life insurance.
Yeah.
And you get a discount on your life insurance the better gear you take and the better your survival rate is. So, and again, I'm not saying this is good. I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah.
That would mean that, like, when you die, what do? You get a payout. Let's just say, I mean, actually, God, there's so many aspects of it. Imagine when you died, they gave you like a flat ruble value. I'm throwing something out there off the top of my head. Let's just say 50,000 rubles. If you get insurance and you die, they'll pay you 50,000 rubles.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that costs you like 30,000. I mean, I guess there's probably some way of like exploiting it. I can't like go through. I can't run through it in my head.
Every single thing.
Being like, well, that's the worst idea because then you could exploit it. You're probably right. I would have to think about it, but I mean, just something so simple could totally change how people play the game. Because then imagine all the items that don't get extracted. If all of them go to fence because then it has nothing to do with insurance.
Ooh, yeah.
That's just scavengers grabbing whatever shit is laying around. So there would be a lot more stuff on a max level fence. Some of it could be really good shit. Whether it was insured or not, it doesn't matter.
That is kind of an interesting, two birds with one stone type of deal. You know what I mean? If we shift, like you were saying, it's hard to think about out loud, and there's a lot of pieces to it. But just the high level idea of shifting the thought of insurance away from insuring specific items, but more so insuring your life, incentivizing you to potentially bring out your actual gear and keep it when you bring it out. It also fixes this problem, which is that like the current karma grind is such a letdown at the top. You know what I mean? Like, right now, all fences, all the uninsured stuff, and it's like, a half-used ALU splint. You know what I mean? It's like the best thing at fence level 2.
Really?
Dude, it's so bad. I mean, do you have that? You have?
No, I have like 5.6 rep, and I just can't be fucking bothered to.
I got to max karma when they did the event. I actually lost it due to a bug. I killed a player scav, shot right over my shoulder with a Mosin, and I killed him, and I lost 2.0. Like 2. I went from 7.8 to 5.8. I had like room to spare for that exact reason. And I lost, I don't know what the hell happened, but I lost all my karma. But it's the max level fencing is a joke. I mean, it's like the scav security vests, splints, 9mm PST GZH ammo. Like it is a joke. I've never seen a proper gun. I haven't seen armor. I haven't seen anything. So I don't know if that's a bug, if that's working as intended, but there is like, I haven't seen anything that a player that's played longer than 5 hours would bring into a raid on that. Like,
remember old school fence when if there was ever anything that was like good, it would get bought. It would
get sniped. Yeah.
Now, everybody has access, as far as I know, everybody has access to the same one fence guy, right? So the rare case in which like decent armor or guns that are insured don't. What is it if they aren't insured?
I don't know. It was confusing. Yeah, I don't know if it's uninsured things, but even if it was uninsured things,
it would have to be uninsured things because the insured stuff goes back to you.
Correct. Yeah.
So it would have to be uninsured, and you're only gonna insure good shit. So that means all the good shit.
Not right now. With the insurance prices the way they are, dude. With the insurance prices the way they are, a lot of people aren't insuring slicks. They're not insuring their helmets. They're not insuring like stuff like backpacks and contacts would be flooded. You would see attack 2s and raid backpacks and stuff like that because but you don't see any of it.
But so I mean, you have to think about a fence. I don't know if there's any sort of discount, but normally like his stuff is twice as expensive as it would be on on the flea market. So either there's no reason to buy if any of the good stuff is there, or if it is, the only reason why you'd want to buy it is if it was cheaper. And in that case, everyone, it would be like the flea market before they added, when they had the time.
Yeah.
I was like, everybody going to buy one thing. What are the chances? You're just never going to get anything. You're never going to be able to find anything from Fence fucking ever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like. There's a couple tweaks I'm sure that they could do.
Yeah, and I'd love to just see them try, right? Once again, it's like do a wipe or put it on the ETS or something or tinker with it. You know what I mean? I don't know. There's a lot to it. It's complicated, but we've talked about it in the past, and yeah, it just feels the whole like I hate the whole ditch your kit thing. I get it, and I don't ever like.
You have to do it because it's one of the only ways that you can ever almost break even.
Exactly. Like I don't do it, and I would most of the time I'd rather not do it and take the loss. Like, you know what I mean? Like a lot of times I'll be running around with an MP7, which, an MP7 can break down. You take the mag out and you fold the stock and it's 1x3, and I won't put it in my backpack for space. Like I'm ditching like a slick that I can't take. I just can't do it in my brain. And this isn't a holier than thou thing. Like when I watch people or when I'm like with a duo, I'm like, yo, ditch your gun in a bush. Here, take this. Like I just like can't do it. I love this concept of like, no, like this is my gun. I would never throw my gun in a bush. You know what I mean? Like this is my stuff. I'll ditch like armor and stuff like that. But anyways, so, and I know, and I think that Nikita thinks that same way, where it's like, once again, it's the whole like plan, execute, you know what I mean? Type deal. So I think there's some stuff, but reeling it all the way back, it's one of a long list of subtle differences that the Cycle Frontier has that makes you think about Tarkov. Like, you know what I mean? I've had that conversation a lot when I'm playing Cycle, where I'm like, chat, okay, imagine this. Like, imagine this whole, like, we're spawning into customs and I don't know where anybody else is. And I don't know if the loot has respawned yet. And I don't know if somebody's gotten this loot. And I don't know if people are going to be running to extract right now or they're just spawning in with me. Like, and now that there's a practical example and it's not just like me ranting and raving on stream after I die, because it's the same thing. It's like you die and there's no winning, right? Like if you're frustrated because you're dying because you genuinely want a mechanic in the game to be better, there's like, well, you're just salty. You should have done this instead. And so there's no winning. But now that like we have this game and people are like, yo, what is this? Like, I want to get a key. And I'm like, oh, chat. I was like, imagine this in Tarkov. Imagine that. It's been cool to like show people. Like you spawn in and immediately in the cycle, you're just like, all right, where am I? Where do I need to go? Where could people be? I don't know. Like I've spawned in and
someone filling, then you see someone else over there. Like it's so dynamic. Yeah.
I've spawned in and gotten into PvP fights in less than 60 seconds. And I've spawned in and not seen a single other player my entire raid. This is really cool too, because like you spawn in on that map and you only have 2 extractions, like only 2 that you can call in and take. And they're normally like relatively close together. So they're like on this side of the map. And I've seen people do this too. You see an evac ship just come in and drop in an area you're looting. And you're like,
how you use it?
And you're like, yes, you can. And you're like, yo, somebody's extracting here. You run up to the heli, bop, 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 bop. You kill them, take their stuff and just hop in the exfil. Boom, you're out. You can take anybody else's exfil. So now it's a completely additional dynamic thing where it's like, I didn't even know I was standing in an exfil place until it was coming down and dropping. That alerted me to somebody else being present and I got to kill them and do that. But it's not like extract camping because I had no idea it was an extract.
Yeah.
And even if I knew it was an extract, like even if you could say, well, you know, if you play the game long enough, you'd know where the extracts are. That's true, but you would have no idea if this extract, if anyone on the map has this as their extract, if anybody on the map is coming towards here or away from it. It's just one of those, it's like a baked in dynamic event that they didn't have to code. It's just a happenstance that the other player that called in this extract was there when I was there, and boom, this really cool moment happened. And they didn't have to like code in every third hour of every other raid, you know, make this cool thing happen. It just happens. You know, it's like what we talk about, player driven experiences. You know what I mean? Oh,
Yeah.
and there's VoIP, bro. And I've seen, like, I was watching Deadly, and he ran up on like a 3-man, and they were like, they didn't even pull out their guns. They're like, we're just mining, bro. And he was like, okay, cool. Go have fun. And
I haven't tried any of the VoIP yet. I've only gotten involved in like 2 fights. I got to give that a try.
bro, me and Deadly and Bazinga were playing, and we were just steamrolling. And there was this guy, we were shooting at him and stuff like that. And Deadly went for the push, and he just started yelling. He was like, please, please, no, I just need to get out. And Deadly was like, hold. And like me and Baz were just like waiting. And he was like, what do you need, buddy? He was like, drop the backpack. Let me see what you got. And Deadly looked through his backpack, took a few things, gave him some meds because we shot at him. And the 3 of us just rolled out, and he left. And it was like, it was so cool, dude. It was so cool.
Yeah, that's sick.
Dude, it was so cool.
There were 2 raids that were actually three raids that were noteworthy. I really only played 3 raids. The first one was like I wandered around for a while, like, filled up with a bunch of shit, have no idea what any of it was, like metal scraps and alien fucking eyeballs and whatever,
Mhm.
And then it was like made my way over to an extraction point, and as I was creeping up on the extraction, I heard what sounded like footsteps in the little building, and I'm like, I think someone's here. So now, not having it was my first raid.
Yeah.
So it wasn't obvious to me that if he was there and he didn't call it in, then he would know that somebody else was coming and calling it in.
Yeah.
I was like, up. I'm like, I hear him, and the ship's coming in. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. It's like covering up my noise, but instead he was like, he knew, But I thought that was being creepy. I didn't realize that, like, I was basically saying, hey, I'm extracting here. But my one major criticism is how the extraction, just how it works, because it's basically like the size of a fucking bedroom with like a box in the middle.
Yeah.
And the ship comes down and like drops, so there's like 4 doors that open up. It's just like a square. And the problem is that like it and again, I'm new, so there might be things I didn't notice, but it seemed like there was like an ambiguous timer. Like I don't know if there's a countdown, but it's like you kind of don't. The first time I called one in, I didn't make it there, and it flew away. I was like, oh shit, and I had to call it again.
Yeah.
So it's like you kind of need to rush in, and then you're sitting there completely in the open.
Yeah.
And the problem is that if you ever play any shooters, if you're like in a room like that with like basically 4 pillars, whoever the aggressor is, the attacker is so much at the advantage because they can run up, shoot at you, get behind cover, and then they can pop out on the left or pop out on the right. Like they can, and you're just like, you don't know where they're going to be. So you're kind of fucked when you're just sitting there.
Yeah.
Honestly, I really wish a way around it would be that you would get in there and hit a button and the doors would shut and you would leave.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to have to sit there for 10 seconds or 15 seconds while a squad, like, you should be able to get the fuck out.
Yeah.
So I would really, really hope that they would modify it that way because, so what happened is we got into a fight and I was like, bah, 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 headshot in the chest, headshot, and I'm like bobbing and weaving on him. He just peeks me and I'm dying. I'm like,
yep.
My body is in the fucking exfil.
Yeah. It is.
It gets sorted away. It's like, come on.
It is weird because it's ambiguous on how much time, and you're just like basically running around the box because like if somebody comes, I don't know where they're gonna come from, so I don't know which way would be cover, and you're just like trying to stay moving. I like the mechanic of like a button you hit. Because then if you're the first one in your squad, you're still kind of having to wait. You're like, guys, come on. You know what I mean? And then you maybe hit the button. It's like 3 seconds. You get 3, 2, 1. And now you feel like you have some sort of control over it. I've definitely been left behind by my evac. Too. Because you're just like, I'm like in my stash and I'm like, oh, I don't think I need this. And it's like, boop. And I'm like, wait.
So I guess people are saying there's a bar at the top that like fills up.
Oh,
I'm
really?
Not the bar, when I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, no, I didn't even notice that.
It just sucks because if someone pushes you, there's nothing you can do except try to. You basically have to leave the exfil.
Yes.
To like fight them if you want to be mobile at all because you have no movement. There's the box in the middle. It's just it really. I don't know.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
You could like get in there and like pull down a fucking box around you or something and make it so that like you, like I don't know, just something that they could do, I think, to make it a little bit better. Now I will another thing. People say smoke grenades help. Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, the smoke grenades work really well in that game.
Never used smokes in any fucking game other than Counter Strike. So as soon as I got smoke grenades, they were like the first things I discarded because I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna use smoke grenades for?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not confident enough with running and jumping, let alone smoke grenading in the middle of the fight. I don't even know what the button is. So that's a good idea actually. If you toss down a couple of smokes and then just like chill.
Yep.
You can't prone, right?
No.
I think no, you can't prone. So one of the other things that happened in the second one that I got into was, I was wandering around just picking shit up, and then all of a sudden I see like 50 yards in one direction a fucking pod coming down, and I'm like, the thing is that it comes down, it slows, it lands, and then there's like a little bit of a cutscene, little animation thing, like So it was enough time for me to run, get an eyesight, and then see the guy just phase out of the thing.
Yeah.
And I completely I hit him with so many bullets and he didn't die, but I can just imagine how much that sucked when you're like, I'm in a raid. Oh, I'm getting shot.
Yeah.
Like, I almost feel like what they should do is, if there was a way to make it so that you couldn't like see the pod coming in.
Oh, yeah.
But you'd see it take off.
Yeah.
So basically what it says is someone just landed 3 seconds ago over there.
Yeah.
That at least people in without making it so that like you don't want to just go and then open the door up and there's 9 guys there with guns. Like that sucks.
That's an interesting idea. I will say in all of the time that I played, I've never once gotten that where like I spawned and then was immediately taking fire. Like I've spawned in and like saw people and then we engaged them. So I don't know what their like math or logic is around like, this is the radius we won't spawn you around. But that feels like a good idea to like, so it still gives you a queue, so you don't then become at the disadvantage because you didn't know somebody just spawned behind you, but it's not giving you this like 10-second lead time head start on that guy. You know what I mean? That's like just popping in and you're like, you've been running to that location. That's an interesting idea.
If it came in at like boom and landed and then like by the time that registered, they were all like 2 seconds later they were able to run and get to cover. You know, rather than
100%. That's a good idea.
So that's a
good idea. Bro, tell me you noticed. I mean, I don't know how many raids you played. It took me a while to really realize this. Like, did you notice because we talk about this all the time. Did you notice how little time you spend out of raid? If you're
I hit the button and was talking to chat, and all of a sudden it was like cutscene, and I'm in. I'm
dude,
like, what
when
the fuck?
you click deploy, like you are in charge of how much time you spend out. Like if you're in the rhythm of the game, you die and you get back to your thing, you just hit inventory, you drag on gun, armor, helmet, meds, ammo. When you hit deploy, in less than 10 seconds, you're in that animation, and you just like it's a 7-second animation. The door opens, you're in the raid. Like,
and it's because there's no
synchronizing with other players.
It's not even that. They don't have to wait for anybody because it's just persistent servers. So all they got to do is find a server and they put you in it.
Yep, that's it.
Now what they have to do is put you in a queue. They say this guy's also in a queue. This guy's also in a queue. This guy's okay. This guy disconnected. Wait a little bit. Okay, this guy's also in a queue. This guy. Okay, now let's start up a server. Let's spin it up. Let's get it up and running. Let's do all that stuff. Okay, let's load everything. Okay, great. Now let's put them all in the thing and synchronize. No, like it doesn't have to do any of those things. So that's another reason why I think it would be so fucking awesome if there were persistent servers like that.
It's epic. You don't realize how much time is wasted in that. Like we've talked before about how it's almost kind of nice for streamers because then you like get to vibe with chat or run to the restroom or whatever, but like when you're gaming, man, oh my god, like it is just you're in as soon as you want to be and you're out whenever you want to be, and it just feels good.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna play it a little bit more. I heard the servers were like down yesterday. I was playing Magic and I was gonna play it a little bit later, but I guess they're having some issues, so I opted not to. I might mess with it some more over the next coming days. But that just reminds me of one of the more popular comments on the last podcast, and then something that I think a lot of people were saying. And I got a lot of DMs and a lot of messages, and I still maintain my opinion. I still stand by what I said, but the whole idea of being able to spawn into the same raid, if it was like a persistent server, like 30 days, and a lot of people were basically just saying, like, a lot of the sentiment, none of it was nasty, but it was all like, I usually respect your opinion, but you're way off with this one. You know, that
yeah.
Okay. I still disagree.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was interesting because almost everybody's main premise was that, actually I can pull up because it was one of my more recent notifications. Someone said, one of, if not the single most important aspect of Tarkov is losing your shit when you die. It's gone, you're dead. And a lot of people were saying yes. Yep, that's it. That's what makes Tarkov Tarkov. And it's like, except that's not the case if you insure your gear or if you have teammates.
Yeah. Or like we were saying before,
which is way more reliable than if you had to go back in, risk more, and earn your shit back.
Yeah. And you can get into the same raid as a scav now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like it. Yeah. I
wasn't even going to bring that up because that's like, oh, well, you can't control it and it's a fluke. And sure, even ignoring that aspect of it, right? It's like, people say that the most important thing is that you die and there's no way to get it back. And it's like, well, then why is it that most people, when they insure their stuff, or I mean, historically speaking, I know insurance is expensive now, but like,
yeah,
historically speaking, when you die, there's a chance you lose your things. And if you have a team, there's a much smaller chance. If you're in a 4-man, if you die, getting your stuff back is infinitely more likely to happen than if you were in a 4-man or a solo and you die, and then you have to get loaded out again, load back into the raid, get back there, have the stuff not have been looted, and then loot it or kill the guy and grab it. You know what I mean? Like, it's actually to me seems more hardcore and more badass.
Yeah.
If you're able to go back in and get the shit that you lost and earn it back.
Yep.
Earn it when your teammates grab it and bring it in a backpack, or if your teammates grab it and throw it in a bush, or if you throw it in a bush, or if they took it but then they died to scavs on the way out.
Yes.
So that get back in. So like, I don't know. I just don't buy that. I think it would be way more quote unquote Tarkov. And I think when people say Tarkov, they think like the badass survival, Jason Bourne, hardcore, fucking whatever. You know what I mean? That's like, if you earn your shit, go back in and get it. If you're able to fucking kill them and survive, and if you die, then you lose double your things. You just double down and you lost again.
Yes.
You can try to go back in again, but the chances every single time you're going back in, you're risking again
more
your time and whatever stuff you're taking in, and the chances are diminishing. Every single time you go in, they're more likely to have grabbed your stuff and left.
Yep.
Which is not the case with your teammates and with insurance.
Yep.
So I don't know. I still maintain. I don't know if you have a different opinion or whatever, but I still maintain that like it might be something.
Yeah.
But it's not Tarkov in my opinion.
Yeah. It's like I see what you're saying. Where if there's a reason against it, it has to make sense throughout the game we experience now, right? Like, you know what I mean? It's we can't apply logic that we don't apply to other areas of the game to this idea specifically, and I totally get that. And I agree. Like, I think it's more like what the problem is, like every idea goes down the rabbit hole of other ideas, because like the idea of being able to go in and get it back and earning it back makes more sense if insurance was changed around a little bit. You know what I mean? Because then like you can just, it's like an explosion of thoughts, but that without like those two ideas work very synergistically. If your insurance was less about this specific gear and the thing, then your friends can't just ditch it in a bush, and then it's like, well, if your 4-man killed another 4-man, but you happen to die, your friends are like, I kind of don't want to carry all your stuff out. There's loot here, so now there's another thing, and you have to risk it. And then the other thing that I think we didn't talk about enough to dissuade some of the fears of other people is like, based on your idea, how likely it is you'd get that stuff back. Like, so in your idea, are you talking about like I have picked this one server and every time I queue back in, I'm guaranteed to be in the raid where I died? Or are you saying it's kind of like Tarkov now where it's like there are persistent servers, so there are less total servers, but when you queue back in, you're still not even 100% positive you're getting back in?
I mean,
you could do it either way. Yeah.
Way, but imagine if it was like DayZ where there's a big list and you choose it,
you pick a server,
Let's just say you picked one. Let's say you knew it was going to be the same one. Let's say there's a 1v1 fight.
Yeah.
You kill me. Before I get back to my stash, your backpack is full and you're running away. So like, what are the chances that I'm going to be able to get back to my stash after a fucking loading screen, get all my shit together, get back into the raid? If it's on customs, let's say I spawned in by boilers and we fought in dorms. My next spawn might be Big Red.
Exactly.
Now maybe if that guy's going towards Big Red, maybe you'll be able to like cut him off, but you don't know where his exfil is.
Exactly.
No, so I don't know. Like,
that's the thing as well, is that like, at least when I think about this idea of this whole, like the persistent servers, like I feel like the current maps are too small to do those persistent servers. So in my head, I'm either thinking like a final 1-day open world Tarkov, or I'm thinking we at least stitch a few of them together. You know what I mean? If it was like customs, factory, and shoreline, and then woods, interchange, and reserve, and streets, if those were like the 3 maps you could play, even then you have to remember, like, because somebody in the chat says something about like that would lead to a lot of extract camping. And I understand why you think that, because in current Tarkov, like we said, as soon as you spawn, you pretty much know, like if I ran into this side of dorms and I saw somebody running towards me from this side of dorms, I know he has to extract back here. So then if I spawned back into that raid and I got the Big Red spawn, I would just wait by Big Red because I'm like, aha, he's going to have to extract here. Yeah. But if you're playing custom, shoreline, and factory all merged into one map, and the server 6 hours long, you have no idea where that guy spawned. So if you spawn boiler and you got into a fight at resort, you're like, okay, this is the quickest path to get there, but I don't know where he came from. I don't know what direction he's going to be going. I don't know if he's going to be sticking around to loot resort after he loots me. I don't know if he actually already looted resort, because as soon as I got to resort, I got into this fight. So that, like, I feel like we have to bring it back to the core of the idea. Is like what we're talking about isn't just like, I want to play the current game we have and just get back into my same raid and get my stuff back all the time. Yeah. That's not the idea.
Nothing else.
Exactly. You have to, what we're talking about, and maybe we don't bring it back to the 10,000 foot view enough, but like what we're talking about here is a dream. We're not even saying, you should just do this. We're talking about a dream of Tarkov that feels like what Tarkov's supposed to be because of these things. If we make the maps bigger, if we eliminate a lot of the predictability, if we do stuff with this, a lot of stuff like this, then this whole like getting back into the same raid, like if people are getting hung up on that, it's like, man, those concerns, like maybe they shouldn't do it. Like you said, maybe there's a reason out there, but the concerns that are being presented like aren't it. You know what I mean? It's like, you got to think bigger. You know what I mean? These maps would be big. You would have no idea. Thered be so much unpredictability, but it would create exactly like the extract thing I was talking about in Cycle. It would create a player-driven, quote-unquote, dynamic event. Because imagine like how cool is it right now, the 1 in 500 scav raid where you get into your own. Like even if you weren't trying, you're just like, I'm gonna do scav raid. You're like, this is my stuff. Like that's such a...
Everything's gone except for like your armor or whatever.
Yes. And so like, what you're not doing is what people are afraid that you're doing, which is like creating this endless rotation of, well, I'll just spawn in and go back and kill you while you're looting my stuff, and then he'll just spawn in and kill me while I'm looting his stuff. But what you're doing is you're creating these like crazy potential moments where like you might have gotten into that fight at resort, and then you spawn back in and you spawned in on customs and you were like, this is way too far to run. I'm not even gonna go. So then you move into factory and you meet him there and you kill him and you're like, he had my stuff. Like that would just be so cool. Yeah, but it wouldn't like, it would happen so less often.
dude.
Yeah. It would happen so less often than people think. It would just be like this cool player-driven dynamic event. You know what I mean? Like,
and the whole idea with the reason why spawns and exfils are the way they are now is because raids are the way they are now.
Yes.
So if it was a consistent 3 or 4 hour, 5-hour server or whatever, there's no reason why if you spawned boiler side that your exfil wouldn't be boiler side.
yeah.
Like you run to fucking dorms and then you run back. Like it's not unrealistic that the helipad you get dropped off at is the one you're going to get picked up at, right? But like, so there's no reason why exfils and infills can just be anywhere, and then completely eliminates the whole idea of camping, which again is never a fucking problem. And anybody that brings it up has almost always been wrong, pretty much historically, ever, always.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just think it's like something worth thinking about, that whenever we bring up these ideas, that first of all, we're just brainstorming. There's a lot of things that we're just improvising here off the cuff. This isn't like a video where we're fucking prepare all these ideas and think them through.
Yeah.
We have like 4 bullet point lists in a fucking Google Doc when we start these things, and we just riff for 2 hours.
100%.
Forgive us if sometimes, our shit isn't always fully, completely thought through when we do these, thought experiments. But also keep in mind too that like you can't assume any other thing is true. Okay, well, if we want to make this change to Tarkov, well, it wouldn't work because of this other thing. Okay, well, the thing is that like when you're brainstorming, if I were to say, oh, it doesn't work because of this other thing, okay, well then can we tweak this other thing to make it make more sense?
Exactly.
What happens when we have these conversations is when we start with a good idea, and people would point to A, B, and C and say it can't work because of A, B, and C. When we think about it and we think about how we can tweak A, B, and C, almost always A, B, and C would end up being improved.
Better. Yep.
It'd be more realistic and better for gameplay and better for all those things if we made the change and tweaked A, B, and C.
100%. 100%. And extracts is a perfect example of that, where we've talked a million times about like how simple it would be to eliminate any extract camping that does happen, even though it probably happens less than people think. It's just like add more extracts, right? Because then it's infinitely harder to extract camp. And it's the same thing. It's like, oh man, if we're talking about like this open world instance-based Tarkov, like, oh man, that could be so cool. Yeah, but then everybody would be extract camping. It's like, well, if we make this change, the extracts don't have to be so dumb. The extracts could be infinitely more like random and dynamic. And then now it's a better mechanic for extracting on top of a cooler mechanic for Tarkov. You know what I mean? And better and cooler can be subjective, but exactly that. Everybody like it's once again, it's this weird thing where everybody's like, Tarkov sucks, it's in such a terrible state, like BSG suck, they just whatever. And then it's like anytime we're like, yeah, like, but this could make it better. And it's like, well, then people would just do this. It's like, yeah, but then maybe we could change that. Like I know it feels like all the dominoes falling, but I don't know. Yeah, we're just riffing. We're just theory crafting, and I don't know. But yeah, man, it definitely like and that's the thing is that like we were saying before, the Cycle is a great game, and I'm really excited for them to pull the beta down, work on the game, and release it. But fundamentally for me, it just made me more excited about Tarkov's potential. Right? Like it wasn't like, oh, this is going to be my main game forever, because like we said, Tarkov isn't just a risk your loot and die type of game. Like there's other aspects to it. These, the map design and the gun handling and the way that everything fits together. And it just makes me excited for the potential. And I'd love to sit down with Nikita and hear his thoughts on that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know that's probably like, even like offline, because I know that's probably the last thing he would ever want to talk about publicly. You know what I mean? Because like, who knows how long it would be, but I would just love to hear his thoughts on like how he envisions a more open world Tarkov. I mean, I feel like he said that. I feel like he mentioned it relatively recently that that's still the plan. You know what I mean?
he said in so many words, like, well, not in so many words. I'm pretty sure he did say like, or answered directly to the question of like, yes, like DayZ.
Yeah.
So like similar to that with longer persistent.
Yeah.
Now again, there's a million things that it's like, what does that mean?
Exactly.
Like,
how does loot respawn?
yeah, there's a million issues there.
But fundamentally, you and me would rather work through the issues and arrive at a better Tarkov than just complain about every single thing that this change would then change. Like, you know what I mean? That it's such a different stance on it. You know what I mean? And you can tell by how somebody phrases the question. You know what I mean? When you like, well, this would be really cool. When it's, well, then X would happen. It's so different than like, I wonder how that would affect this. You know what I mean? And so it's, I don't know. But another thing, the last thing on the cycle is like, it's cool to see, like I've been calling it like the Summit 1G effect. Like I nor anybody I know had even heard about this game. And then like Summit was playing it because they just lifted their NDA. They had been closed testing the game, I guess, for a while. And they lifted the NDA like maybe 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. And then like a week ago, a few nights ago, Summit was playing it. He played it like 2 or 3 days in a row on stream to like 30,000 people. And then you know, and then it all spreads out. The next day, Landmark, Pestily, you know, XQC played it for a little bit, and it just trickled down. And for the past like 4 nights, they've had server outages for like ever because they just were overwhelmed by the support. So it's kind of cool to see that. It's cool to like see them blow up and do so well because they have because they've had such good reception, and it's cool to see that. I know a lot of people are really frustrated because they're trying to get in, but it's the same thing that happened with drops where, you know, they couldn't have expected this response, and it would have been irresponsible for them to like set up this many servers when nobody had heard about their game. You know what I mean? So it's kind of cool to see them do as well. And I really hope they do well. I think the beta ends on November 1st, and some of the devs were in Deadly Slob's chat and in Geeks' chat, and they were saying that they're gonna have to, because the question was posed to them like, the response has been so good, would you consider like a Tarkov style open development, like keep it open, let us keep playing it? And they were like, no. Like, we have to shut it down. And I was like, good. Do your thing, man. Do whatever you think you need to do for the game. Of course, I'd love to keep playing it, but like, do what you think you need to do. So that's kind of cool.
Interesting. I completely forgot until just now. I got an email. There's like embargo stuff, and I won't say anything other than, have you heard about the game Riders Republic?
I feel like I've heard that name, but I have no idea what the game is about.
So just going off of, if you just Google Riders Republic, upcoming sports video game developed by Ubisoft. Let me see if I can get like an actual description. It looks like it's like an extreme sports game. So almost think about almost like an open world. Fuck, how do you even describe it? You know, like GTA Online, you can just drive around, you can ride motorcycles around, you can fly planes or whatever, right? And there's like persistent world. Well, this game is it looks like it's like that, but it's like mix that with SSX Tricky and Tony Hawk.
Yo, that's kind of dope.
Does it? Are you looking at it at all?
Yeah, I have it. Yeah, I have it up.
It's like you see a million people. They're like BMX biking down mountains while like other like fucking wingsuiters are flying.
Yeah.
People with like jetpacks are going by him, and then there's other dudes with like these racing bicycles going down like, and there's all this snowboarders. It's like all this shit. It looks gnarly. And I have access.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, I might play. I mean, I could play it today. I think I'm probably gonna wait tomorrow. Oh, and I think I'm gonna have Twitch drops. Oh shit. Yeah. Yeah, tomorrow. Okay, so nobody who's listening to this now, not live, will be able to do anything other than maybe go to my VOD and watch. Oh, it looks like Trial Week is an NDA-free phase, open to all players. There's no embargo for capturing or streaming. Oh, hell yeah. Okay, sick. So it just looks cool because, like, I loved Tony Hawk Pro Skater on PlayStation. Yeah. I loved, SSX Tricky back in the day. There's so many aspects of this. It looks like it might be sick. And also because, like, I do indoor skydiving, so I want some of the wingsuit mechanics and see how cool they are. I don't know. It'll be something fun to try out. That'll be new. That it was completely off of my radar.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks pretty fucking rad.
That's dope. Forgot
all about that. But yeah, so have you been playing anything other than the cycle? I've been playing the old Magic the Gathering.
I mean, cycle, we did some, obviously we've been doing some New World, although with the move and everything. Oh yeah, hold on.
What the fuck am I looking at?
Yeah, I don't know.
This doesn't look...
No, that's not. You didn't find that in game.
Oh, he didn't find it in game.
Correct.
Oh shit! Sorry, Jesse. I every time I open up the browser, it cuts off your window. Weird. Okay. Yeah. Sorry for the distraction. They found something in the game, and I was like, screenshot it, and then it looks like it was in the game files. I'm pretty sure it's for fucking ever.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So I've been playing a little bit of New World and stuff like that. I've been trying to get back into Tarkov and been playing that more. A few things that we even had here, like, did you see what they posted on their Instagram today? The dailies thing, the Tarkov?
No.
Dude, they posted like a screenshot of like an in-game thing on a build that we don't get, and it was in Russian, but it like, you know how where you want to change your clothes on Ragman, you go to Ragman and then it's like all the tabs, and he's got services and like nobody else has services or whatever like that. Mm-hmm. Skier had an extra tab, and so it was all in Russian and it was translated to be like all this stuff, but the official caption from the Escape from Tarkov Instagram account was operational tasks, aka daily quests, are closer than you think. And then like people translated on the text on the page, and it was like 2 missions from Skier, and it was like the tab was like daily tasks or whatever. Like, so that was like, that's kind of cool.
I hate to be the downer, but let's think about this, because everybody's been saying, not everybody, but I've heard 8 billion times.
Yeah.
Tarkov needs daily quests, as if that's like the solution.
No.
To everything. But it's like...
Yeah, correct. That is not the solution.
Daily quests, I still don't... At least for me.
Mm-hmm.
But for what?
Yeah.
I'm going to get some more money that I don't need, and, maybe some XP that I don't really care about.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess I just, like... I've always sort of been like... Cool. Like, I don't think that they shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I just don't see how it's not just, how like the wipe is like,
correct.
We wipe, and that's to how they fix everything. It's like it's temporary. All this is almost like a mini wipe every day, where you just have to, like, imagine if it was get the golden pocket watch and you could do that every day for,
correct.
Like, it wouldn't.
It depends. So I think I'm reaching here, so I wouldn't expect this. But in most games, the daily quests, like in most games that have daily or weekly challenges, those are connected to some sort of special currency that can
battle pass.
Not even a battle pass, but like I'm thinking like Destiny, where it was a way to get like the legendary marks, and those marks were used to buy gear from like my faction person. So it's like you didn't have to go get gear from that person. It was like, you know what I mean? It wasn't like this weird monetization thing like a free-to-play game where it's like, you know, you can only do 3 missions on our free-to-play game and then you have to wait for the premium credit. Like, it wasn't predatory. It was just like, it was in a whole nother vein of content that was just around this thing. So if they, once again, I'm reaching here because I don't think this is the case, but there's a world in which like skier or like certain traders provide additional gear or additional reasons to do those. And the only way you can gain respect or a specific currency, or the only way you can do X, is by doing these, because then it parses it out. It's not grindable. You know, Johnny the Chad can't have 600,000 of that currency when I only have 7, because we both have to wait until tomorrow. You know what I mean? So if you do want that cool thing, that cool gun or whatever, it pulls that content out. So now I think realistically, it's what we've talked about before, where like the community outcry about something, which kind of just like pushes battles like Nikita into being like, yeah, sure, make daily quests. And I don't necessarily think they've thought that far ahead, and it'll probably be like, kill 15 scavs and bring me an SSD, and those will be the 2 quests a day, and you'll get some rubles and maybe a moonshine, and that'll be it. That's probably what it is, but I think there's a world in which daily and or weekly quests actually do add to like the value of Tarkov. I don't know if this is that though.
Yeah, we. Obviously, there's a number of things that would have to change, I think.
For sure.
This is how our response to these things, our criticism, is different from, a lot of the ones that we were just talking about earlier, like in the comments and stuff, where it's like, that's cool. They're just going to have to change a bunch of stuff to make it compelling. Because, like, you say get access to cool stuff. We have access to everything all the time.
Correct.
So it's not like they're going to release new shit only available through this thing, because...
Correct.
It'll either suddenly be flooding the fucking flea market, or all they would be doing is saying, oh, all the things that you before buy, like you couldn't get the HK now unless you do it's like, okay, well now what you're doing is just taking shit away from us and saying, oh, but you can unlock the stuff that you used before by doing these new things. And it's like, okay, I don't know. They're gonna have something else there to make it worthwhile.
I am equally as skeptical. I think what's interesting is the time frame switchery-do that's been going on. So like in September, it was like we have 4 patches, and they didn't say it was going to be 1 patch every month, but there were conveniently 4 months left in the year, and they said they had 4 patches they wanted to push out. They said 12.11.5, which we just got halfway through October, 12.11.6, 12.12, and 12.12.5. And they outlined what those patches were. And 12.12 was Lighthouse, VoIP, Inertia, Daily Quests. Those were the key things. 12.12, Lighthouse, VoIP, Inertia, Daily Quests. And then on one of the Russian podcasts or something, Nikita was asked about, we haven't talked about this. Nikita was asked about Lighthouse. And he said something to the effect of, we might release Lighthouse earlier than 12.12. And everybody was like, early. And to me, what that means is that they're going to delay 12.12 till next year, but give us Lighthouse. So like, we thought we were going to get 12.12 around Christmas. And he's like, we might release it early, but I'm like, well, that means 12.12 is probably just not happening until February, but we'll get Lighthouse without those other features in December. So he gives us something. But what I find is interesting is then we go back to this. Daily quests were on the list of things that were happening in 12.12. So it's just all confusing, because he's like, well, yeah, we might separate Lighthouse from 12.12. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe 12.12 is delayed. But it's like, hey, daily quests are sooner than you think. And I'm like, wait, is 12.12 sooner than I think? Or are you separating this as well? Like, it just, when they gave us this like outline, here we are on October 21st or 22nd, and it's all fallen apart. It's like, what? There's not enough time to get 3 more patches out this year. And is like, you know what I mean? It's just weird. So,
I mean, that's the problem. That's the risk you run when you try to be, if you want to try to be like agile and to be, to be creative, and when you come up with ideas or you think of things, be able to jump on it and act on it and have like the freedom to do that. As soon as you say we're going to do X, Y, and Z,
Yeah.
you have just nailed yourself into a box,
Yeah.
you know, that you can't change, or you're going to make people mad.
Yeah.
You know, so that just goes to show like the double-edged sword around like,
And
you want them to be more fucking,
yeah.
They can't be more what's the word, clear,
They could be
transparent. They can't be more transparent with us while also being dynamic and, you know, going. Think about all the things you do that you change your mind halfway through for whatever reason.
Yeah.
We're gonna go to Target, and then we're gonna go to the mall, honey. Okay, great. And then halfway to Target, you're like, oh, I'm gonna stop at, you know, Starbucks and get a coffee. Oh, well, if we do that, that reminds me, I want to get a coffee mug. And imagine if you you can't change once you say you're gonna do it. You have all these ideas and you just can't anymore. You know what I mean? So it's like, then just don't say what you're gonna do beforehand.
Yeah. What's hard there is that, like, when they give us a timeline and they can't hit that timeline, you know, big air quotes here, but everybody, you know, all the mad people erupt and under promise, over deliver. Don't give us timelines. Don't do that. Don't do that. When they go radio silent, the community, absolutely erupts in the vitriolic, like, you guys don't say. They're just taking the money and run. They're just partying over there at BSG Central. They haven't put out any content. They put out this. So while I agree with everything you're saying, that, you know, that's not just the end all be all final answer, because the other side of that is they get just as much crap on the other side for not saying anything. My opinion is that almost anything in between the hard left or the hard right is a bad idea, because inconsistency is the killer, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They can be more transparent. Star Citizen is more transparent. And that game's been in development for longer and has more currently in development. Here's the thing, though, is they just go every month, like almost every single 30 days, they update the roadmap. And today they go, in this patch, we're going to have these things and we're working on this, and this is how far we are in this. Boom. No emotion, no like, oh, but Johnny got sick. Here's where we are. A month later, that thing that you were excited for might have been kicked to the other patch. They don't explain it. They don't have to explain it, but they don't give us an outline. And then 4 months later, we're like all stretched really thin. And we're like, oh, there's only a few weeks left for them to make this deadline. Every month they're like, nope, this change, nope, this change, nope, this change, nope, this change. And it's more transparent, but they don't have to like explain or elaborate or defend anything. They're like, this feature got kicked.
Yeah.
That's it. So like, I'd like to see, you know, it's either that or they just don't say anything ever and we get what we get ever, and they never bend to it. But anything in between breeds inconsistency, and then that's frustration to some people, and then people defend this, people defend that. So I'm not saying like they should do what Star Citizen does. I'm just saying that there is a reality where they could be more transparent and it not bite them in the butt as much, because if they just was like every 30 days, they were like, this is the new roadmap, sorry. You know what I mean? Like, period. And that was it. And it was like, at least then every player could choose to just hop in, get super informed as to what's happening right now, and then decide if they want to hop back out or hop into the game. But when it's exactly what we're doing right now, where they're like, we want to do these 4 patches by the end of the year. You know, 50% of the year has gone since then, and they've only done 1 patch. So now we're all like, can they squeeze the thing? And they on their end might be like, oh yeah, dude, 12.12 is already in February. You know what I mean? And if they just told us that 3 weeks after that original post and updated us, then it's easier. Really quickly, I don't know. I feel like we don't want to go too down a rabbit hole again, but like what we were talking about with the, when we were talking about the dailies and the flea market and stuff like that, that was another big question, not question. That was another big thing that came up out of the cycle thing. It was like I know of a few streamers that were playing that were like, I was pro flea market in Tarkov until I played cycle. Like people that like even up until just a few weeks ago were like, no, they're not going to get rid of the flea market. They don't need to get rid of the flea market. And then it was like, I know a few people that were like, and then I just played a game without one. And I was just like, maybe we don't need the flea market in Tarkov. So I don't want to go too far down that like they should get rid of it, because we know they're not. but it was an interesting, it just brought that up in a lot of people, even people that were pro flea market, because you just play a game where like it's so intrinsically loot based. We've talked before about how like people see loot in Tarkov as just dollar signs, like, oh, drop that's only 6,000 rubles per slot, you know what I mean? But in this game, it's like, well, I need this for my upgrade, I need this for my quest, I can sell this, I can do that. And you're just looking at the loot as the loot. And it's at least in the circle I run in, it's like shaking up a lot of opinions on the whole flea market thing. And I didn't know if playing it the little bit kind of got you thinking about that at all.
I mean, no, it just reinforces what we've said a million times, which is civilian flea.
Mm-hmm.
Solves.
Yeah, I agree.
Civilian flea plus, if more quests required things like the pocket watch,
yes,
that were like quest specific items, well then you can use the flea market to buy random trinkets and shit that you need to craft stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Or like maybe some modifications that you might want to use on guns, or maybe cosmetic items, or maybe, maybe medical items or whatever. But if you can't buy guns, ammo, and body armor and quest items, then to me, the flea market still has a ton of value without the major detracting aspects of it, which is you can just buy your way through quests and or get everything you need all the time with infinite access.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's I completely agree. It's refreshing to play a game where I'm looking at the loot differently, but it really did just kind of reinforce that thing where. And once again, like we said, a change that kind of brings other changes. Because I completely agree with that. Like if more quests were less of just, not every quest, but if there were more quests for the golden Zibbo, the bronze pocket watch, those types of things, it feels like a really just underutilized mechanic. Then the flea market is less relevant for quest items, and it more funds the hideout churn of upgrading your hideout and then using those stations in your hideout to craft things. And so you can buy the things off the flea market if you want. It's a good way to make money for lower tier players, is going and farming those things and then selling them on the flea market. Buying those things on the flea market doesn't equate an instant access to gear. You know what I mean? If you buy the things you need to craft your BP ammo, you then have to wait 3 hours for your BP ammo to craft, and you're only getting enough from that craft for one raid. So then you have to start it over. So it's like it slows down the instant access to the things that are craftable. It removes the instant access of the things that we really don't want anybody to have instant access to, but it still provides a valuable mechanic to the game and a way to make money. And it just feels like a win-win there. So
Amen.
I agree. So that was interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I know you've been playing lots of Magic the Gathering. We were talking about that a little bit before. You just been vibing with that again?
I mean, so I got in, and here's the thing, because you never played Magic, right?
No.
I don't even know. It's been so long since I got into it, and I got into it very briefly. I worked with a bunch of just like tech nerds at a software startup company, and during lunch on Fridays, all the other software engineers I worked with, they played Magic. So one of the things they would do is they'd buy like one of those booster boxes that had all those packs.
Yeah.
And we do what's called a sealed draft, which everybody gets 3 packs, sealed packs from this box. Everybody gets 3, and what you do is you open up the pack, you look at all the cards, and there's like always the one like mythic, legendary, rare, whatever. But then there's a whole bunch of cards. And what you do is you figure out you take one, and then you pass the deck to your left. And what you're doing is one by one, pack by pack, you're choosing cards, and you are gonna have like a little mini tournament with the people with the deck you build from this limited supply of cards.
That's cool.
Just picking the perfect thing.
That's really cool.
So there's like some strategy around like, there's nothing here that's good, but I notice all of the green cards are getting taken, so that means somebody's probably building a pretty sick deck, and this card will be really good, so I'm going to take that.
Yep.
But you also keep the cards afterwards. So sometimes you're just like, I'm not going to play this card, but
I want it. Yeah.
But and then whoever wins, usually gets some extra packs from the box and stuff, and you do like this little mini tournament. But so that's how I got introduced to it.
That's cool.
Back during a block that was called Shadows over Innistrad in 2016, I think, and I played for like a year, and I got super into it. I mean, I was showing chat while I was playing the other day, like all the cards.
That's so cool.
Literally have like binders and binders and binders, just like full of cards, and I have some none of them are like old, but I made some pretty good decks. And the cool thing is that like when you're a kid and you play like Pokemon or whatever, like $5.99 for like a pack is like a lot of money. So it's like you want to get the one thing that you want, which is like a 1 in a million fucking chance of getting. You're never gonna get it. But like when you're an adult, it's like I'll just drop $100 and get like 100 fucking things, and you're just like, you literally open it up, throw all the cards out, look at the one rare, and you're like, nah, just ripping it, going through. But I just discovered Magic: The Gathering Arena, which is literally like the online digital version. It's identical to the game. It's free to play. There is like you can buy, you can spend money.
On more packs and stuff.
It's just like real Magic, where it's like you can buy packs, and the more you buy, obviously the more chance you'll have at getting better stuff. Although the only difference is that in real life you can go to a Magic store and you can say I need 3 copies of this card, and if they have it, you can pay $7 for the card, so you don't have to buy 100 packs and hope you get lucky. You can just buy the card. You can't do that in Arena.
Interesting.
They have a whole wild card system and stuff like that. So it's like you open up a bunch of packs, and when you get duplicates, it just gives you like progress towards getting like just choosing,
Oh.
So you have like, right now I've got like 10 mythic rare wild cards, and like a mythic rare card, it could cost $100 if it was like super rare, but I've got like 10 of them. So it's just like if I'm building a deck, I've got 10 wild cards that if I can just search for a card, click on and be like, yeah, just make 4 of these, and then it just uses up the wild card. So it's pretty cool and really forgiving. But so you can draft. So I got back into it. I played it for a year, didn't play it for 5 years, and then I got back into it. And within 4 days, now every 6 months they come up with like a new set.
Yeah.
They have new cards, new mechanics, and there's like standard is like the last 5. I forget exactly. Don't quote me on this. All the people that know, but it's like the last 5 like sets. Everything before that you can't use. So standard is always like 5 to 8 sets. It looks like someone was saying. So you have all these different the different sets that come out with all these different cards, and every like 6 months or so or whatever, they add a whole bunch of new cards, and it's like the meta changes completely because you have all these new synergies and all this stuff changing. The thing is that Magic's been around for fucking 30 years now, so there's a billion cards.
Yeah, I was about to say that's insane.
It's like the last, like year and a half's worth of stuff. I don't have to memorize 9 million cards and decks and whatever because I just don't have the interest in any of that stuff. But I was playing, and I made my own homebrew deck from scratch. I didn't go online and search for like the meta, didn't, whatever. I put together a deck that was similar to one I used back when I played, and I got, so the way that the ranks are, is it's like, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, and then mythic. But each one of them has like 4 tiers.
Yeah.
So, plat 4, 3, 2, 1, whatever. And within 4 days of having not played, I literally got up to mythic and was like 95. It was like in like the top like 5 or 10% or whatever of the players. And I've just been playing, and it's like, it's just been so fucking satisfying.
That's so sick.
Being able to like be competitive.
Yeah.
In something that, but because it all comes down to using your head. I mean, there are people that just have decks that, are you basically hold mouse 1 and you win kind of thing, where it's just like put out all the guys and then punch you in the face with them, but just over and over and over again. There are other decks that they literally will sit there with all the cards in their hand, and they'll play their turn, and they'll go, it's your turn. And you're like, okay. And you go to put a card down, they're like, nope. And they like counter your spell. And you're like, well, fuck. I'm going to nope. So like literally they don't even do anything on their own turn. So it's just so cool because there's so many different dynamics. There's stages to a turn. There's like literally set phases where it's like the first thing is you like untap all your things. So when you tap, it's like you're like turn a card sideways if it's on the board, which basically says like you've used it. You know, it means certain things for different mechanics. Like if it's a creature, it can't block if it's like tapped. Okay. So like when you have a creature that's on the board like this, that you've like summoned in the past, and he goes to attack, what happens is he goes to attack, but then he gets tapped. So then the next, when your opponent goes, now this guy is not a blocker anymore.
Oh, so he's like vulnerable.
You have to choose to like, am I going to keep this guy as a defensive option, or am I going to keep him? You know, am I going to be offensive with him?
Yep.
And there are a million mechanics that make it so that like you can attack without tapping, or you know, that people have like death touch. So if it might have like 1 damage and 1 health, and there might be a dragon that's like 10 damage and 10 health. But death touch basically means like I'm poisoned. If you touch me, you die. So they would actually kill each other if they
Oh my gosh.
There's like double strike and lifelink and all kinds of crazy things. But ultimately speaking, you start and I have 20 life, you have 20 life, and we have all of our minions. And basically my minions and my spells, I'm trying to kill you. And the same way goes for you. But when my minions go to attack you, your minions can block, and you get to choose who blocks and in what order. And there's all these different phases to the turn, and there's a million things you could do. There are spells that you can cast instantly. So you can do things when someone's like, I'm going to cast this spell. You can say, no, I have a counter spell that can prevent you from doing that. So like you have to actually like pay a cost to play a card, and I can say, no, you paid that cost, but that's not going to work. So you can like control what other people are doing, but now you paid a cost to counter their spell. So sometimes they're afraid of a counter spell, so they'll bait out your counter spell with a spell they don't care about, because the next spell they're going to do, you know, so there's it's so hard to explain, but it's so fucking fascinating. And it's so complex in a fascinating way that makes it fun and interactive, and every game is different.
Because it's like it feels like, as somebody who doesn't play it, it feels like it's almost like I think about a game like chess that's like all intellect and skill, and that's why it's rewarding, right? There's no desync or RNG or anything. It is just like my skill and intellect versus your skill and intellect. And that is obviously very attractive for a lot of reasons. That's why the game is so popular. But then what I love about this is it like brings in, it feels like the primary mode of winning is can you outsmart your opponent? Can you use what you're given? But then you also have this like grindy aspect of like, I do want to get better cards. I want to get a better deck. I want to play this deck differently. Like, you know what I mean? Like imagine chess, you know, if each opponent was allowed to take those pieces and reorder them before the game started.
I was just going to say, imagine if chess was chess, but instead of there being like 6 different pieces, there was 150 different pieces. Each one of them could do things like hop over. They all had different movement mechanics. They had different combat mechanics. Imagine if when the fucking rook went to kill a pawn, if you had to roll the dice and you know, if 5 or 6, then you actually get to take 2 of their pawns, you know, or like whatever. But then imagine that you get to choose your little army
and then start the chess game.
And then imagine that when you played, almost always it's 2 out of 3. So if you know, so you have your decks, and you're stuck with your decks, but then you also have a sideboard, which is usually like 10 cards or whatever. So imagine you play them, and you're like, oh, he's got the deck that has this like 1-2 punch like combination. I've got these cards in my sideboard. Let me swap them out, and it'll shut their strategy down. So, but they can say, oh, they think
now
I'm going to
know.
Swap out and go for a different strategy. So it's just so you're benefited from knowing what possible threats are statistically. What is the likelihood of how many cards they have in their hand versus how many are in the deck versus they have this many. You know, there's like 27 different counter spells. Some of them cost 1, some of them cost 2, some of them cost 3. Some of them are like you can counter a creature spell. Some of it's counter any spell. Some of it's counter this thing. And so you have to think about like, what could they possibly have? What are the chances of it? And then play around all of those different things while thinking so many turns ahead. It's just so satisfying in a
Yeah.
really nerdy way.
And that's really cool because it's still predominantly a game about knowing what you have and knowing your enemy, like chess. You know what I mean? Like I know my moves, I know what I can do, and I'm, like chess and like poker, where the game is almost just as much about understanding your enemy and what they might do and what strategy they can be doing. It's still fundamentally that, but it's got this other aspect of like, exactly, there's more pieces, there's more cards, there's more mechanics, there's what cards could he have? Not everybody has the same cards. I got this cool card, so and then the evolving nature of it, where like every 6 months there's a new pack, you know what I mean? So I've never played, but it's very understandable that it's like addicting in that way of like, you just know that you're getting better the more you play and understanding it more and baiting out your opponents more. And that
dude, you can, and the part is that even in this digital medium, you can bluff. Like you have these little emotes that you can say oops or nice or whatever, right? And there are times where like I'll go to attack with a guy, and sometimes you go to attack and you're like, oh shit. If they have one of the basic fundamental things is like a creature has their health and their attack is 2 numbers. It's a fraction, right? It's like 1/1.
Mm-hmm.
The first number is how much damage they do, and then the second is how much health they have. So if you have a 1/1 and a 1/1, they hit each other, they both die. Because the 1 damage does, the numerator hits the denominator, that kind of thing. Yeah. Whereas the 1/1 hits a 2/2, they're going to fight, but the 1/1 is going to die, and the 2/2 will have 1 life left. It'll basically be 2/1 at that point.
Yeah.
For until the end of the turn. But so there are times when like if the guy has a 2/2 and you have a 1/1, you don't want to attack unless you just want your guy to die for some reason. There might be a reason why. You might have a trigger on another card that says when a creature that you have dies, draw a card. So now you're generating all these dudes just to sacrifice them so that you're drawing cards. So there's all these different strategies. But sometimes you might attack with the 1/1 and be like, oh no, that was a mistake. I wasn't paying attention, didn't realize that his guy was defending. And I'll go, oops. But I have a card that says, give a +2/+2 counter to a creature, at instant speed. So they'll be like, they fucked up. They'll go to block. And then now my 1/1, I cast a spell, becomes a 3/3. So now they're like, oh, so you can like even bluff.
That's sick.
Or pretend like you're another deck altogether. Because there are colors that specify like the type of mana, like energy that you have. So like red is usually like goblins and fire, and it's like super aggro and like vampires, and green is like more like trees and like large growth, like dinosaurs and things that it's generally like they try to get out a smaller number of big things, whereas red is like I'm either hitting you with fireballs or I'm getting a million tiny goblins that are going to overwhelm the board. White is more like middle of the range. I'm a bunch of humans or like spirits and clerics, and I'm going to try to like heal but also control, but whatever. It's more like middle of the range. Blue is all like I'm either going to be like these small evading like spirits that are like flying, so that like if you're on the land you can't block a creature that's flying. So sometimes you can just have one guy that's constantly getting in for 1 damage every turn, and they can't block it. Or it's counter spells. Blue is known for counter spells, where it's like if you want to do anything and you look up and you see that they've got cards in their hand and they've got a bunch of blue mana they can spend, you're like, I want to cast it. And like, nope, nope. And then black is like a lot of like death, sacrificing, and discarding. So sometimes it's like mill 10 cards, and it's like, okay, so you put 10 cards literally from your deck into the graveyard, like the discard pile. But then you might have a card that says summon 3 things onto the battlefield from your graveyard, and that would end up being much cheaper than if you cast them, from your hand. So there's like all kinds of different. But then you have all these hybrid decks where it's like black and red. So it's vampires and zombies sacrificing and buffing each other up. And then there's 3-color decks, and you have to plan all around it. I'm nerding out, and there's probably a bunch of people whose eyes are totally glazing over.
It's crazy.
It's just so much fun, dude.
Yeah.
I really, a lot of people have been coming in and they're like, yeah, I heard, on the podcast that you were playing Magic. I wanted to come check it out. And, so it's been cool seeing a totally different, like, chunk of the community coming in and hanging out while I do that.
For sure.
It's been really fucking chill.
That's cool. I mean, and we were talking before the show about how like just fun and exciting it is to play something that's not mentally draining, but mentally, like, I don't know what the word is, additive. Yes, stimulating. Yeah, it makes you excited and like gets you in the zone, and that's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah.
It's not better than when you like 900 IQ somebody. Like, it's awesome when you do it in Tarkov, but you have to 900 IQ them and the game not punish you, and you actually physically have to like flick and hit your shot, right?
Yeah.
Like there are times when 900 IQ somebody and then I just miss the headshot.
Yes.
It's like, okay, in this game, it's like you can think 27 turns ahead and you know what they're going to play and play around it. And then it's not like reaction time and netcode. It's like I just outthought you and outmaneuvered you. And it's like, oh, it's just so satisfying.
You can 900 IQ and just be chilling. Like you're like laid back, you're chilling, listening to music, but you're like immersed and you can just do it. And it doesn't have to be all the other things aligning with that 900 IQ. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sick. That's really cool.
Yeah, and the only other thing I'm finishing up that it's been like in the works for like 2 years now is I'm gonna have it probably by the time the podcast is up on YouTube. So if you're listening to this when it's been released, you can check out my music channel. Hopefully I'll have it done. My introduction to like music theory, which is basically like there's no non-salesman-y way to put this, but it's like, watch this like 11-minute video. If you're a guitarist, it will change your fucking life when it comes to music and theory. And the whole premise of it is basically like, if you know how to play like a major scale, which is like most guitarists know how to play like one scale, that's it. The whole premise is if you know one, then you literally have 99.9% of what you need to be able to play all of the crazy complex shit that you never knew you knew. You just knew you didn't even know what you didn't know. Yeah. So, and then of course, in Veritas style, the video is effectively like a metaphor, basically saying like you're standing out on the shore of the beach and you're seeing all these people exploring the ocean, and it's like you don't know how to swim. You can kind of paddle frantically around in 4 inches of water over here, but you just get sand in your shorts and it kind of sucks. And you just look out longingly over all those people exploring this world, the ocean that you've never seen before, right? And basically what my video is it's like, okay, here's some scuba gear, an oxygen tank, and some floaties. Throw you in the deep end and you'll paddle around and you'll be like, whoa, this is really cool, this is really great. And then after a while, you're going to realize like, oh, wait, I've been swimming. You're going to just paddle around for a while until all of a sudden you realize I can swim. You take the floaties off and you'll just be able to swim. So it's like you're going to learn how to swim without sitting there and doing paddling drills on the shore for 10 hours a day, every day. You're just going to be able to fucking mess around.
Dude.
So yeah, I'm really excited because I think it's like it's a way that music theory and guitar theory hasn't been taught for 300 fucking years. Like it isn't taught this way. And I don't know why it's not taught this way. So I'm excited. So check out my music channel if that's something you guys are interested in.
I'm actually really excited about that because like I have seen, like I know kind of what you're talking about because I've seen you talk about that and explain that and break that down. And I've only ever like come in and left like during bits of that. So I'm actually really excited to see that because I've seen you explain it and it has blown my mind. And I haven't played guitar in a long time. And I wish I had that when I was playing because I always used to do that. I mean, I always used to like look at people who could just like riff on their own and know what they're doing. Like I can learn just about anything. I had enough skill that I could keep up with and basically play anything if I could just learn it, but I could never like make that. So, so I'm super interested to see it and like see the full explanation uninterrupted, in a YouTube video and see it. That's super.
You know those kids' keyboards where you play a note and it's always just like that. No matter what you play, it's always like the right note.
Yeah.
Or some of those pianos where like the keys light up.
Yes.
And like,
yeah.
If you press any other key, it doesn't make noise except for the one that lights up. So it's like you can't fuck up. That's kind of like what I'm gonna do, which is basically like you're gonna be able to go and improvise in G sharp Phrygian and get that cool sound that you've never even knew that you knew. And you're not even gonna know why, but you're gonna know how to do it, but not why so this video is basically like, I want people to watch it and go, this is fucking amazing. How am I doing this? I need more. And then hopefully, you know, if the response is positive enough and enough, then I can release my like 20-part series that I have literally almost done. I just don't know how to introduce it.
Yes.
And this is my introduction, the teaser, where it's like, hey, here's some floaties. Go throw them in the water and then have everybody say, this is fucking amazing.
Yes. This is the hook. This is the hook, because then they're going to be playing stuff they've never been able to play before. And they're like, oh, I need more of this. That makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. That's really cool. I'm excited about that. But yeah, I mean, I think that's just about everything. Not a whole lot of Tarky stuff. Neither of us have been playing it very much. But yeah, man, that's pretty cool. I think, yeah, that was just about everything. Battlefield Hazard Zone is like nothing like Tarkov at all, even though that's what everybody said it was going to be.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to play it. It's just the whole, like, everything's got to be something. You know what I mean? Every game has to be the Dark Souls of something, or it's got to be the Tarkov of something, or it's got to be, it's got guns, so it's PUBG. It's got a slide, so it's COD. You know what I mean? It's just like, so I didn't take too much stock into it. I'm excited about seeing it and playing it, but that's really it. But I think that's it. So thank you guys so much for hanging with us. As always, I will try to get this out early next week at an appropriate volume and quality. I'm sorry for the people that I know. It's so exciting and cool to me that we have people waiting on a Monday. But then it makes me so stressed out, because when something bad happens, it takes so long to like pull it down, re-export it, re-upload it, let it process and do the thing. So like it all came crashing down. Although I will say, dude, fiber internet, we moved this weekend, which is why life's been crazy. But like, dude,
now you can't even tell that you're in a different space.
Yeah, people have been making fun of me about that all the time. Yeah, I'm in a different state. But dude, the fiber internet is great. I can upload the 32 gigabyte podcast in like 7 minutes. It's like crazy. It doesn't process in that time, but it uploads to YouTube in that time.
Fuck yeah.
It's nuts. It's super exciting.
Oh, I'm jealous.
But yeah, so thanks for hanging with us, everybody that stuck with us live. It'll be on all the platforms early next week. And thanks for hanging. We will definitely see you all on the next one.
Peace.